So good morning, everyone. I'm Nicola Barrett, a Chief Corporate Learning Officer at Emory Executive Education at Goizueta Business School. So happy to have you all with us this morning to cap off our 2020 Business Over Breakfast series before we all enter the holiday season, and then come back together for what we hope is a fabulous 2021. So thank you for joining us this morning. Thank you to the Emory executive team for making each of these happen every week. I think we've been stopped by only twice, once by Thanksgiving and the turkey, and another time by some bad weather, which downed power lines and the internet. But so thank you to the team for doing that every week. During the month of December, we've been focusing on shifting paradigms during COVID times. And our belief is that history will show that companies who focused on their people, technology enablement, and creating customer value during the pandemic are the ones that are going to rise above all others coming out of this COVID era. This morning, I'm really pleased to have Rohit Verma, the Chief Executive Officer of Crawford Co, with us this morning. Based here in Atlanta, Crawford Co is the world's largest independent provider of claims management and value-added services to the risk management and insurance industry, as well as self-insured entities, with clients in more than 70 countries. Rohit took the helm as CEO right at the start of the pandemic, lucky you, following his role as Chief Operating Officer at Crawford. So faced with the reality of transform or wither on the vine, Rohit and his leadership team took swift action to innovate new client solutions and align organizational structure to enhance client service. Rohit has more than 20 years of international strategic experience and a proven track record of creating momentum and growth. His career has spanned 3 continents, Europe, Asia, and North America, and has led numerous global teams. He's passionate about driving culture and operational transformation. He sees employee engagement as the most critical enabler of an organization's success, and he is especially interested in identifying and developing high potential employees early in their careers. And we've enjoyed, thank you very much, Rohit, the opportunity to work with a number of them over the last few years. As you'll see today, Rohit is a teacher, a mentor at heart. He enjoys sharing his insights both formally and informally with professionals, and has occasionally taught in our classroom at Goizueta, and hopefully we have you teaching more of that. The next thing that says here is that you were recognized by the National Underwriters magazine as a top 5 insurance executive under 40. You started early in the industry, Rohit, so congratulations on that. As with most of our Business Over Breakfast webinars, Rohit's going to spend about 30-35 minutes sharing insights on Crawford's strategic journey through COVID that apply to other organizations, followed by the Q&A. So he is certainly happy to answer clarifying questions, so please put those in the chat or the Q&A feature, and we'll do our best to get to those clarifying questions along the way. And then at the end, we will have other questions, and we will do our best to get to a variety of those over the course of the Q&A time. Please do use the voting button. That if you see a question in that Q&A and that's your question, or you're really interested in that, there is the opportunity to vote for that, and that means it gets to the top of or further up the list, and that's easiest for us to then make sure that we are asking the most important questions for you. So this morning, thank you, Rohit, for sharing your insights and your time with us, and we're really excited to hear what you have to say.
Well, thank you, Nicola. It's absolutely a pleasure to be with you. Sometimes you hear your own description and you say, are they really talking about me? But no, thank you so much. That was very kind of you for that introduction. Look, it's been a pleasure for me to engage with the Goizueta Business School. As you know, we do a number of executive programs together. Unfortunately, we had to put them on hold during COVID for all the reasons that you and I are aware of. But I'm hoping that that continues. I think you guys do a phenomenal job in building and developing executives, and I'm very thankful to you and other members of your staff to partner with Crawford in that. I'm excited about today's conversation. And during the pandemic, like many of you, I've been watching a lot of series on Netflix. I've been watching a lot of CIA series, so I'm just going to use that terminology. So I'll have a handler today, and that handler is going to be Tiffany. So I will be relying on Tiffany to put some polls in front of you. Let's get into the conversation. I think I'm supposed to start by sharing my screen. So let's do that. And we will begin here in a second. Okay, so I'm assuming that everybody can see my screen, the gorgeous Goizueta Business School building. And so today's topic is COVID happened, right? I think there is no one around the world who hasn't been touched in some form by COVID. Unfortunately, some of us may have suffered a loss, which is really unfortunate. But there is no one who hasn't been touched in some form. So businesses are no different. Today's discussion really is based on as the businesses have been impacted by COVID, and we see a light or a glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel now, especially with the vaccination beginning in at least in UK and US over the last week, this week and last week. I thought it would be good to kind of talk about what are the things that we could be doing, that we are doing as Crawford and Company, that could be beneficial as we emerge out of it. I really would like this to be a discussion, so please keep your questions coming in, and we will collect them all and address them towards the end of the meeting. So let me just tell you about Crawford and Company. Nicola did a great job explaining what we do, but here's just a little bit of a deeper dive. So we handle about $18 billion of claims every year, and we handle property and casualty claims. So think about roof damage during a hailstorm. Think about a worker getting injured at work. Think about an auto accident. All of those are claims, and we handle about $18 billion of those, which puts us, that if we were an insurance company, would put us at about a $25 to $27 billion insurance company, which would put us among the global, some of the largest global insurance companies in the world. Which means we handle about 1.6 million transactions. We are in 700 countries, but majority of our 700 offices in 70 countries, but majority of our revenue, 60% of it comes from the US. We have three businesses, and I'll take 30 seconds to explain each one of them. Three businesses. One is our claim solution business. So if my daughter was at home and left the faucet running and there was water coming into our dining room, and I would call my insurance company, there's a high likelihood that if they send an adjuster to the house, it could be one of our staff members. Our TPA solutions business, which is when companies outsource their claim settlement. So if I'm a large organization, maybe a Home Depot, maybe a Georgia Pacific, I might take a high retention layer, which means a high deductible, and the claims that are within that deductible, I might need a third-party provider to handle those claims. So that'll be us. And then finally, our Crawford Specialty Solutions, where we handle really specialized risks. So if it's a very large claim, a very specialized claim where you need some deep expertise, so it could be an explosion on an oil platform, it could be a large forensic accounting issue. Those kinds of claims get handled in our specialty services business. Our purpose, I believe, is a very noble purpose: to restore and enhance lives, businesses, and communities. And then our vision is to be the leading provider and most trusted source for expert assistance, serving those who insure and self-insure the risk of businesses, communities anywhere in the world. So that's our purpose, that's our vision. We're extremely proud of our values, which are encapsulated by the word restore, which is R for respect, E for empowerment, S for sustainability, T for training, O for One Crawford, R for recognition, and then E for entrepreneurial spirit. So that's who we are. Hopefully this will give you a reason to go look us up a little bit more. We are listed on the New York Stock Exchange. We are an 80-year-old company. We're about to celebrate our 80th year in 2021. And we are listed on the New York Stock Exchange for the last close to 51 years. The company was started right here in Georgia by Jim Crawford. His son, Jess Crawford, and his grandson, Jesse Crawford, are still involved, very involved with the business. They're both on our board and have a real long-term perspective on the business, which we value extremely. So with that, let's go to the next slide. So these are the solutions. I briefly touched upon them: loss adjusting, third-party administration, repair, medical management, on-demand services, and catastrophe response. And we believe that we bring thoughtful experts from around the world who offer comprehensive and intelligent solutions to our customers. So that's who we are. So hopefully this draws a picture for you of how COVID would have impacted, right? So one way COVID impacted us is that we have our loss adjusters that are spread around the world. They're going to people's homes, people's businesses, as they look at losses and evaluate losses. So obviously that part of the business was significantly impacted because of all the lockdowns and the quarantines and the concern that we had about our employees. We also have a part of our business which really depends on economic activity. So general liability losses, workers' compensation losses, those losses are directly dependent on economic activity and employment. As those started to come down, certainly there was pressure on our revenue and profitability from that standpoint. We made a decision very early on in the process that we are going to prioritize the health and safety of our employees first. We procured our own PPE. We provided PPE to all of our employees. We created a hotline for them to order PPE if they were running low, because we wanted to make sure that that was something that was available to them. We also made experts available. So we had someone from a well-known medical college, an epidemiologist, do a informational webinar with all of our team members around the world, so people really understood how this was spreading. And this was early on in the process when information was not that easily available. But we really needed to make sure that our employees were aware, especially because they were coming in contact with people. In a 9,000 people company, we were able to contain our infections to about 200 only. And no, fortunately, no deaths and only a couple of hospitalizations. So we feel very proud of that, to be able to manage it that way. We were able to move 95% of our staff to work from home in a very short period. So these were steps that we took very early on, and I know a lot of companies were able to do that. I do believe that this was the time when you could separate out companies that provided a lip service to saying health and safety was the priority for them versus the ones that actually came through. And we are very proud that all the feedback that we heard from our employees and what we saw, that we came through on the side of keeping our commitment on health and safety. So I am not going to do just another slide on COVID. We all know that we will remember 2020 as a year when really a number of things that we knew well and took for granted, we were reminded that we can't, right? Whether it's going to a restaurant, whether it's going to a movie theater, frankly, whether it's just about going to work or traveling for pleasure, all of those things change for us. So Tiffany, let's go to the next slide and really get a poll from people of how many of you believe that COVID has changed some things forever. I believe you're all aware of how to use this. If you go to menti.com and use the code 3329077, you can actually figure out how to poll. Let's give, starting to emerge. Okay. All right. So let's pause here. Right, there's generally a trend emerging, right? 70-30, which is not surprising, right? 70% of you believe that COVID has changed us forever in some form, and about 30% of you believe that that is something that may not be as permanent as we think. Okay, let's go back to our presentation. And so I believe that we are entering an era of contradiction and ironies, right? On one hand, we want things that are high touch, and high touch means there's a lot of personalized viewpoint and personalized service and personalized connection, but we want to focus on technology, right? Clearly, that is something that is emerging. Second, on one hand, we say that there's war on talent. On the other hand, we're saying there's disruption happening because of technology. And then finally, we want scale and agility at the same time. Historical business views would tell you that if you had scale, it was tough to be agile. And what we've seen is really emergence of businesses that have taken these contradictions and ironies and put them together. And none of these would be a surprise to you, I think, right? So if we look at a company like Amazon, they figured out that during the time of COVID, how they could be high touch, so highly customer centric, but be completely technology oriented. Now, on their end, they probably have certain things on the technology side and certain things on the human side that they worked on. But overall, if you think about Amazon, you think about a company which is high touch, highly personalized, and technology focused. You know, I was debating what to put in here because I could put the whole healthcare sector or the whole pharmaceutical sector here, right? There's a huge war on talent in that sector, and yet they had to be disrupted. They had to come up with a vaccine in the shortest time ever known to mankind. I mean, the average time that I've read, and I'm sure some of you may be experts in this space, so may know much more than I do. If you look at how vaccines are produced, it typically takes, or the shortest it has been in the past is about 5 years. But this thing had to be done, and in under 10 months, essentially, a vaccine has been created. And Pfizer is the one who started almost the last and was the first to finish with a 90% efficacy rate. And there was a great article in the Wall Street Journal recently about Pfizer. And then, what we're on Zoom, right? So tremendous amount of scale. Imagine the number of meetings that have moved to video in a very, very short time. So the agility that was needed and the scale with which this was built. So really an era, I believe, of contradictions and ironies. And while some businesses have struggled to engage, others have thrived during the pandemic, right? And these three businesses are examples of businesses that have thrived. And I'm sure there are many more stories of businesses that have done well and what made them thrive in this, right? Some of it was just the business model that they had, but then other is how quickly they adapted and moved through the process, right? We certainly take pride in the fact, and I didn't purposely put our company in here because that would have come across as self-serving, but we certainly take pride in the fact that we were able to move pretty quickly, change some of the things that we wanted to do, and push forward. Now, I do believe that the next 3 to 5 years will be defining for all industries. Some industries, it's going to matter more. Other industries, it's going to matter less, but it will be defining for all industries. And the three things that we at Crawford see, that one, disruption will accelerate. Companies that thought that having people work remotely is going to be really impossible, or was a 2-year or 3-year long project, made that happen in 2 weeks or at most 4 weeks. And I think that this has given confidence to a lot of companies that they can transform, they can disrupt, they can move quickly. So I do believe that disruption will accelerate. Data and information will be gold. If you read about how Amazon has been successful, how Zoom has been successful, how Pfizer was successful, or you need or a plethora of case studies of companies that have been successful, data and information has been key to how they've driven that success. And I think reliance on data and information will only increase. We've already thought about it, talked about it. There's conversation about the fourth industrial revolution, which we're in the midst of, but data and information is the new gold, is the new currency. And then finally, demographic shifts will continue and talent scarcity will continue. I've certainly seen that in our company. Probably some of you have seen this as well. There are individuals who've decided to take early retirement. because they have seen the fragility of life, and they believe that they've been working hard for all these years. They've spent time away from their families and loved ones, or frankly, time away from themselves, where they've not been able to pursue things that they wanted to pursue. And now are deciding that we have enough of a nest egg and we are going to step away and actually step away out of the workforce. We've also seen the other side, which is unfortunately because of the pandemic, some people have lost a lot and have decided to extend how long they believe they'll have to work. But there will be a demographic shift that is going to happen. And as that demographic retires or moves on, the scarcity of talent is going to increase. And it's not only going to increase because of retirements or the movement of talent, but also because of the first two things that we look at, the disruption and the data and information. So new skills, new way of doing business, a new thought process, all of those will become critical. So as we thought about these three trends that we believe are certainly going to impact our industry, and we believe industries in general, we thought about what are the things that we could be doing, and I call them the 5 no regret moves, and I wanted to share those with you today. Before I do that, I would love to engage with you and understand which of these impact your company or industry. So again, I'm going to request my handler, Tiffany, to put the poll in front of you so we can see your thoughts. So if you believe you're going to accelerate disruption, if you believe that the importance of data and analytics is going to increase, if you believe there's going to be a demographic shift and talent scarcity, or if you believe it's going to be all of the above. And some of you may think none of these. So let's see. Okay, hopefully we'll start to see results here in a few seconds. And again, as a reminder, if you can go to www.menti.com and use the code 3329077. Okay, looks like somebody has disrupted our technology. Oh, here we go. Okay, so 55 of you believe all of the above, 27% of you believe the increased use of data and analytics, only 13% believe on the accelerated disruption, and only 5% believe talent shift and demographic shift and talent scarcity. Okay, thank you. Let's go back to that, and none of you believe it's none, which is good to see. That's what I expected. And we're back to our slides. Okay, so 5 no regret moves that we are prioritizing. First, investing for improved customer experience journey. We believe that that is a very, very important thing. And as customers, as I showed you before, as customers view sort of this high touch, but so highly personalized, but the ability to interact through technology, we believe that that customer experience journey really matters. And now you see brands that are emerging that solely are based on customer experience journey. And because we are a B2B business, it's really important that we replicate the experience that our customers want to create for their customers so that we can be that embedded partner of choice for our customers. Second, hiring for capabilities, not skills. I think this is a very important change that we're making, and I'll talk more about that in a second. Accelerating our digital identity, deepening our core competencies, and expand into adjacencies. Finally, converting vendors into strategic partners. So those are the 5 moves that we believe, whether it's a W-shaped recovery, it's a K-shaped recovery, whether certain things are going to stay forever or change. We believe that these 5 things are sort of fundamental, and by focusing and keeping these 5 things as a priority, we will be able to move forward and take advantage of the changing business environment. So let's go a little bit deeper into each one of them. So First and foremost, it is investing for improved customer journey, right? Focus on the client interface, deliver a white glove experience, and drive innovation that drives customer value, right? We don't want to drive innovation just for the sake of it. This is not a science fair project, or all about being cool. It is about driving value for our customers. So we are investing from a customer experience journey perspective on that front end, on that interface with the client, because we believe that replicating customer experience for what our customers want to create for theirs is an essential part of being an embedded partner of choice for that customer. So really important piece for us, and the number one thing, right? Second, hiring for capabilities. One thing that emerged out of the pandemic was the need for our ability to be fast and be agile, which means that we had to change things really quick, which means we needed people to adapt new processes, learn new way of doing things. So we believe that learning agility was a pretty significant capability that we believe our people need to have. Intrinsic capabilities like work ethic and ability to collaborate and problem solve, right? Those are obviously needed as well. And we believe that if we hire people on capabilities, then we can help build skills, because skills will continue to change. And if we hire people only with skills, not focused on capabilities, then that learning agility will be missing, and we will not be able to adapt to any of the new norms that get established as we move forward. And then finally, maximizing our employee engagement. We believe that when you hire people with capabilities, you actually maximize their engagement, because they're in there for something broader than just the application of their skills. Third, accelerating our digital identity. Again, not much to say here. This is a term that, frankly, I believe is overused, but something that had to be done for us. So we wanted to be more visible on mobile, more visible with data and analytics, and push more automation. So accelerating our digital identity became really important, and something that we're focused on. Number four, deepening our core competencies and expand into adjacencies, right? We want to create solutions. We wanted to make sure that when clients came to us with a problem, what we were doing was solving that problem in the most holistic way, in the most sustainable way, as opposed to saying, I call it order takers, right? They say, well, I need X, and we give them X. We have to like step back and say, okay, you need X, but let's think about this problem holistically. Focus on verticals, because you cannot build solutions until you actually understand the vertical that you're in. So if we are proposing to a retail company, we really need to understand the challenges and issues that retail has from a loss perspective, and how we're helping them on that. And if we are working with a rail company, then we're thinking about the challenges and losses that rail has, and then how we were serving that. So the vertical piece was really important. And then let's identify underserved niches, right? As we engage more with clients, as we build a better interface with them, we get more digital, we hire people with more capabilities, and we get an understanding of what are the underserved niches for them, we will be in a better position to create solutions for them. So really deepening our core competency, our expertise, and expanding into adjacencies. And then finally, converting vendors into strategic partners, right? The pace of change and the size of bets is increasing. I think you heard me talk about Pfizer, right? They had to spend billions of dollars in building this new vaccine, and they actually partnered with a company in Germany. I believe the name is BioNTech, and they partnered with BioNTech, and it was one of the suppliers for them, and it turned into a partner. So I do believe that this pace of change, the size of bets, it's very hard to do things just on your own. And if you treated your vendors as strategic partners, you could actually get more done. No one company has all the answers, right? We're heading into territory that we've not been before. Or if we had, at least not in our lifetime, right? This goes back to 1918 and 1919 and 20, when the last pandemic happened before this one. So we're really heading into areas where no one company is going to have answers. And we really do need partners to create that full suite of solution that I was talking about. So those are the sort of 5 no regret moves that we are pushing. We believe that they best position us to help work our way through the uncertainty that is in front of us. But But no matter what uncertainty comes, we believe that these 5 moves are what we call our no regret moves. So I'm just curious, which of these is your company prioritizing? So again, I'm going to request my handler, Tiffany, to take it over and get your viewpoint. And you can vote on as many of these, right? So you can vote on all 5, you can vote on all 3 or 2, and we already have the results emerging. So it's pleasing for me to see that, that a lot of you believe that you're investing in these or prioritizing these 5 areas. Let's give another few seconds for the poll to settle. So customer experience journey, certainly winning, but then I also see hiring for capabilities and accelerating the digital presence and deepening the core competencies sort of up there. Fewer of you on the converting vendors into strategic partners. Okay. Very, very interesting to see. I think the polls have generally settled, so we will go back to the presentation. Okay, so I believe that every industry will have its own challenges as we emerge from the pandemic. And you all in your own industry will develop your own things. Some of the things that we're looking at are things like, what can the balance sheet and liquidity take on, right? Even though, as I said before, there's a glimmer, but we still don't know how long the economic issues can last. In fact, I was just reading something from the World Economic Forum and the World Bank, and their view is on a K-shaped recovery. So if that happens, then the financial resilience will have to stay on for some time. So what can the balance sheet and liquidity really take on? What in the industry has changed forever? In our industry, where we have a significant portion of our business, which is medical management, as an example, we believe that telemedicine is going to pick up a lot more than it was before. So I think that is something that will change forever. I think people working from home is going to increase, and the hybrid model of some people working from home and some people working from workplace is going to change forever. Are there any underserved niches that have emerged? We believe that in our business, desk claims is an underserved niche that is going to emerge, where more and more claims will want to be handled by the desk, and how can we position ourselves to handle that? And then how will we differentiate ourselves in the new norm? As the new norm happens, there are certain things, like I said, that are going to become level playing fields, right? So a geographic presence may become a level playing field because you'll do more things remotely. So what are the things that are going to become a level playing field? And we'll have to figure out how do we actually emerge and differentiate ourselves. And finally, and I think very importantly, how will we give bounded optimism to our employees, right? And bounded optimism is nothing but realistic optimism. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the Stockton effect, which where there was, and I may not have the story right, so somebody might be able to correct me, but I believe there was one of the personnel who was a prisoner of war in Vietnam, and they did a research that half of the prisoners who thought that they were going to get out by Christmas versus others who actually believe that we will get out, we just don't know when. And they found that people who had bounded optimism, where they had the optimism that we will get out, but was bounded by the fact that that date may not be known, did much better than people who had optimism and had set a certain date for themselves and said, hey, by Christmas, we're going to be out. So I think giving our people, our employees, that bounded optimism is going to be really important. And we really have to think about how do we give that bounded optimism without being misleading. So something that certainly we are thinking about. So I think as we mentioned, we want to make sure that there is some time for Q&A. So on that note, I will close my prepared remarks and request Nicola to please open the floor for Q&A.
Thanks, Rohit. We've got quite a number of questions here. I wanted to start off with, though, how have you as CEO kept in touch with employees and about how they're doing during COVID?
Sure. So, this has been something that has been extremely important to me. there were some things that I was already doing as a CEO even before the pandemic. And that included, I did an email to all the employees in the company once a week. And that email was typically either taking some element of our strategy, something that I had come across when I was visiting another country or our offices, or some aspect of a client interaction that I had had. I continued that. So as I took over as CEO and we were in the pandemic, I have continued my weekly cadence with all our employees and to share with them what's going on. And obviously that has taken a slightly different turn now, where it's not just about what's happening with a certain client or with an element of strategy. It has become a little bit of a health and safety update as well, right? So we transparently share, of course, we don't share names for privacy reasons, but we share like we've got 20 infections and here's how that's progressing. We don't have anyone in hospital, so people are really aware, because for them to know that how their colleagues are doing is important. So second, I've started to do a virtual coffee. And so every week I meet with 10 employees. The employees are not chosen by me, but we send out an invite, and the first 10 people that respond to the invite get invited. We do take a look at if there's the same person coming in every time. We do filter for that. But we have these 10 individuals. It's a one-on-one session with me, or a 10-on-1 session with me. There's no agenda to it, and it's literally a conversation. So we talk about anything from if someone's sick in their household, or if they're concerned about something at home, to an issue that they have with a client, or maybe sometimes an issue they have with the manager. And I kind of say that this meeting is like Vegas. What we say here stays here, doesn't go out. I'm not going to leave this meeting, call their manager and say, hey, did you know that Jack said this or Sally said that? But I also tell them that if you want me to take a message to someone that you're not comfortable delivering, I'm happy to do that as well. And I think that has really gone well with our staff. We do a health and safety update every Sunday night to the entire company. That health and safety update is all about any new guidance that we see from WHO or CDC, any updates that we hear on best practices, on how to use PPE, or even, we've had things in there like, what are people doing to cope with kids at home, right? So if both parents are working, or it's a single parent household and the person is working, how are you handling that? It's definitely something that we have evolved. We've also done 2 or 3 surveys at this point, at various points during the pandemic, to really understand what's working well for people, what's not working well, what could we be doing differently, which has given important input as how we as a leadership team work. As a leadership team, we meet 3 times a week, and it is strictly about the incident response, what's happening with COVID. We had one instance where we have in one of the countries an office at 30 people, and 10 of the 30 were infected, right? So we really had to think about where's that happening? Why did that happen? What should be different? Was there a safety protocol that was missed? So the engagement, I believe, frankly, the engagement with staff during this period has actually gone up, contrary to what intuitively you would have believed if you heard that we were all locked up in our homes and not really outside.
Mm-hmm. And when we were talking before the webinar, you talked about your Crawford Live sessions, and no question is off limits.
Exactly.
Which is a courageous thing to encourage.
Yes. So once a month, I have something called Crawford Live, which is something like this, and we have all our staff are invited. Anybody can join, and in different months we do at different times to accommodate time zones. So 1 month we will do it at 9 p.m. at night, so we can accommodate people in Asia and Pacific. Then we'll do at 5 a.m. in the morning the next month to accommodate people in Europe and UK. And then we'll do one at 11 a.m. to accommodate people in the US. And we do that so we can get maximum people to interact. And then you're right, I do say in that no question is off the table. You can ask me whatever you have in mind, and whatever we can't answer during the process, we actually write the answers and send them back so that people don't feel that their question didn't get asked during the time that we had.
Thank you. So we've got a number of questions here. Joseph de Leon asks, can you give an example of how corporate values like restore actually made a difference in COVID, for Crawford during COVID?
Oh, absolutely. And look, we are extremely proud of our values, and we believe that values is what defines us. First and foremost, the first value that we have is respect. And having respect for each other, our beliefs, our fears, our trepidations with what's happening around was extremely important. So we believe that respect is the first and foremost thing. Second is empowerment. And one of the first things that we did was we empowered each of our office managers. We didn't say that these are centralized decisions that are going to be made. We empowered each and every office manager to make a decision on their own when they wanted to open or close the office. But we told them that you have to prioritize the health and safety of the employees first. Mm-hmm. Do not compromise on that. Make the decision. For us to be sitting here in Atlanta and knowing what's happening in Poland or what's happening in Singapore, always was either 24 hours too late or second-handed. But those individuals were aware of what was happening. So we did not want this protocol of, oh, you got to call the head office and get clearance before you close office. We said, look, if you need to close office for health and safety, just go ahead and do that, right? So that was empowerment that we did. So I think I can literally walk through each one of them, right? As for sustainability, and we said, look, we have to create a sustainable business. This isn't like, let's survive the pandemic. This isn't like, let's make sure that that we maximize our earnings this year because we've got a quarterly earnings or a quarterly report to the analyst, right? We have to be a sustainable business. We have to have, so sustainability was really important, right? Training, we actually provided virtual training. We trained people on how to use PPE. We trained them on how to operate in this new norm. We have 700 people that work for us in the Philippines. We had to move them to work from home pretty quickly overnight. So then training them on how to make sure that the security and the compliance as they were working from home was really important because they do handle certain things that require high level of privacy. So, training them on that, extremely important. So one Crawford, which is we were really in this together, right? This was not about one business. This was not about HR. This was not about communications and marketing. This was all about us being together as one Crawford. And we recognize people for doing great work, right? And we mm-hmm. continue to do that. We've created new recognition regimens, and we probably need to work on that even more. And then finally, the entrepreneurial spirit, right? The last E in Restore stands for entrepreneurial spirit. And we were extremely entrepreneurial during this time. We started a decontamination business to decontaminate offices. We started businesses on how to restore and re-engage as offices start to open. We started a new business there. We started we didn't start a new business, but sort of a core competency that we expanded into an adjacency to handle business interruption and event cancellation losses, which were happening as a result of COVID. So that entrepreneurial spirit was really strong in the business. So we believe that during the pandemic, we embodied our Restore values, but we feel proud that pandemic is not the only time when we embody our values. The values are what make us. Mm-hmm.
Fascinating. So we have a few questions focused around sort of hiring. So let me sort of group some of those together. So one was, again, from Joseph de Leon. How do you test or screen for learning agility in an interview hiring process? And then there's another one that I think is, again, related to this hiring, is from Krista Berry. Please elaborate on hiring for intrinsic capabilities versus skills. So there's the learning, how do you test for learning agility, and then hiring for intrinsic capabilities versus skills.
Yeah, sure. It's, by the way, as I said, these are no regret moves that we're making. So we're not good at them yet, right? Okay. We want to be good at them, but we're not good at them yet. And we're working towards that. And it is a mindset shift, because if you put yourself in the shoes of that supervisor, of that manager who's got an opening and needs to hire someone, and say that they need someone who really understands how to do, I'm making this up, but say how to handle an auto claim. And they're saying, okay, Rohit, I really like this person, but he or she has no auto claims experience. They have claims experience, but they have no auto claims experience. So that's going to cost me like, 4 or 5 months to train this person before I can actually get them to be productive. And one of the things that we've seen with our data, and I'll be curious at some point, Nicola, that we should probably exchange that with the Goizueta School of Business and see what you guys think, that 80 to 90% of people who fail to do well in their first year, is not because they did not have the skills. They fail to do well because they're missing the intrinsic capabilities. They can't collaborate, or they don't have a great work ethic, or they're not really good at solving problems. Like, they're good at their skill, but they can't really take a problem and solve it and run with it. So we felt that we spend in an interview 90% of the time screening people for skills, and only 10% of the time maybe on their capabilities. And we need to reverse that, because if they have the capabilities, then they can acquire the skills. If they have the skills but not the capabilities, then they will never be able to extend those skills. And if they do fail, it'll be because they didn't have the capabilities. So that's the shift. Now, how do we do that? We have, on some of our roles, we've started to do a psychometric evaluation. So we actually have them go through a psychometric test, which actually tells us how they think. We make that available. It is one of the inputs. It's not the only input, but it's one of the inputs. And it also guides us on how we want to interview, right? What areas do we want to probe in to really understand? Because if the test didn't pick up something, then we have to make sure that we pick that up in the interview process. And then the way we look for capabilities, right? And that's the interview process that I'm talking about. We're trying to train our managers, and some of that training was already done, but we're trying to make sure that that is reinculcated. Is really asking them questions which explain their experiences and how they behaved in certain situations, right? So tell us what about your achievement makes you feel proud? Tell us what gives you satisfaction. Tell us where you thought you utilize your strength. Tell us where you had the most impact. I think when you ask questions like these, you really get an understanding of how someone thinks, what's important to them, and you start to get a window or picture into it. The other thing that we're doing is really pushing on internal promotions. So what we're saying is that 70% of our promotional hires need to come from within. And we believe that does a few things. One, when you hire from within, you have a much better understanding of the capabilities of the person that you're hiring than if you're going outside, right? Even with the best of recruiting efforts, most statistics will tell you it's a 50-50. 50% of the people that you recruit are successful in achieving the potential that you assume they're going to achieve when you recruited them, and 50% are not. But if you're hiring from within, hopefully that potential is higher. And then it gives a very clear message to our staff that we are committed to their development, which we are. And if we hire from within, it demonstrates that commitment. So I know this was a long answer, but it's a topic which I'm extremely passionate about.
And just a sort of a follow-on question to that, Rohit, are you also looking for people and talent in sort of adjacent industries or non-traditional industries or roles, if they have those capabilities? I think there's a lot of talk these days about, who are we not bringing into our sort of talent acquisition pool to interview and to think about.
Yeah, and I don't know if we've gone completely orthogonal, but I think we have. Look, I'll pick on myself, right? So I did not have a loss adjusting background, right? I was never in claims. I did not grow up in claims. Now, I knew insurance, I knew underwriting, and I had experience in the industry, but I had no experience in claims. And here I am leading a claims organization. The leader for us that we just hired in UK, she is the country president for our UK business. She also has no loss adjusting experience, has no TPA experience. And we hired her again for her capabilities. And she's been with us now just over a year. She has done a phenomenal job on actually bringing transformation to our UK business. We are building a product on automobile, as an example, again, which is a claims product. And we hired someone who was an executive at Uber to come in and help us build it, right? So, yes, it's adjacent in some ways, but there is, again, we're trying to tap into their thought process, their thinking. She just joined us in Amsterdam about 45 days ago. And again, the thinking, the thought process that she's bringing is absolutely phenomenal. We hired our country president in Singapore for Asia again, and she is bringing a completely different perspective to us. So we were doing that. We took this is going to sound interesting, and actually Meredith Brogan, I think I can say her name because she's been through your program. She led compliance for us. And after she went through the program, or maybe it was just before, she's now leading our We Go Look business, which is a sort of an insurtech business for us. So she went from compliance to leading that business. And I'm proud to tell you that in the last quarter, and we're in a quiet period, so I can't talk about this quarter. So I can talk about last quarter because it's public. But in the last quarter, every month, she exceeded the record that we had for that business in terms of the number of looks, right? So we have been able to take people and put them into businesses. We had our leader who was running technology for us a few years ago is now running our Latin America business. Internal promotion, going from IT to actually running a P&L in Latin America, doing a phenomenal job. So I do think this works. It is a little counterintuitive, but it works and it pays dividends.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. And I've met a couple of those folks and they
Yes,
really are very impressive executives. So you talked about technology. And in fact, we've got a question here from Honyin Coke. Are current technology sufficient to meet post-pandemic requirements, or do you need hiring internal expertise to build the technologies? He's trying to understand the balance between build versus buy, since you mentioned vendor partnerships in your earlier slides.
Yeah, it is. I think it's a combination. So if I look at our company specifically, we are looking, we're making some acquisitions where we need to make acquisitions, where we think that there's a capability or a platform that we need to acquire. We are making that. In fact, we'll be announcing one soon. We are making some, we're certainly doing some builds with partners. So we have, we have technology partners that have worked with us for years. We are working with them in jointly or co-developing some systems. And then there is some things that we are buying off the shelf. We just made a huge deployment in Australia of a new system that is going to allow us to do some estimation, which is a buy off the shelf. Now we've customized it a little bit, but it is a buy off the shelf. So it's a combination. I don't think it's very formulaic.
I do have a sort of a question on this, which is sort of the balance between the innovations that you're doing and the new businesses or the new solutions you're putting into the market, and the pressures on people and employees to be able to, turn up every day, deal with, you mentioned, many employees have to balance school now, homeschooling kids or monitoring kids. How are you thinking about that at Crawford, that sort of need to do new, to innovate, and yet also be very cognizant of the other stresses and strains that employees have on them during this COVID era?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And candidly, we are working our way through it, right? There is, I have not found a silver bullet, but if someone does have an answer, I'm all ears. We are taking steps. So I'll give you a simple example. One of the things that we're doing is we are signing up with a major provider of meditation services through the phone app, and we're signing up for it, and we're going to provide that to all our employees. Now, obviously, some people are predisposed to doing things like that, others may not be, but we're hoping that there's a percentage that have not explored it, and that by having this option available on their phone, which is free of cost to them, that they will actually avail that. And I do believe in the power of that, something that my wife introduced me to, and I do believe that it can make a huge difference. So that's on one end of the spectrum. I think the other end of the spectrum is what we hear from a number of people is that they feel that by working on things that are innovative, by doing things that are groundbreaking, they actually have this sense of accomplishment that, oh, I'm working on something new. I'm working on something interesting. They have this sense of accomplishment, which actually is mentally more healing for them because it gives them a view, it gives them a hope, and it says, wow, I did something today. I feel accomplished. And, you know, there are other things may not be working well for me in my life in terms of being able to go out and meet my friends or see my loved ones or, you know, provide care to people at home. But I have this sense of accomplishment, and that makes me feel good. So again, I think it's a spectrum. I don't think so it's an absolute. It is a spectrum. Yeah, we hear from people, as I've told you, we've done these surveys, and there's a section of people in the survey that say, I can't wait to come back to work. You know, please let me come back, even if, you know, I'll wear the mask and I'll maintain social distancing. And if I get sick, I'm not going to blame the company for it, right? All the reasons they believe why we're not having them come in.
Right.
And then we have this other subsection that say, look, we love this. This is great. We want this to continue. We're hoping that after the pandemic ends, we will have the same flexibility. So as I said in my note, we'll have to come up with how do we work with this new phenomenon, right? Where some people want to be at work and others who don't want to be in an office setting.
Right.
And we'll have to find that balance.
So Rohit, I'm hoping we have just enough time for one more question, because I think I'm really looking forward to your answer on this one. The question is, will industries that thrive during the pandemic do better or worse post-pandemic when demands for their value or services go down? And do you see these industries, and you see Crawford then having to pivot to new directions, you know, in the next normal and the next normal after that? How do you see that play out?
I think that the change cycles have accelerated. I definitely believe that, because I think what people and companies, and I'll tell you about myself, what I feel now more confident is that we can change, we can adapt, we can move forward. Mm-hmm. So, you know, historically we've had this fear, and as a result of that fear, we've not ventured into it, but we were forced to change. Right. And when we were forced to change, we did it well. Well, maybe you can debate whether we did it well or not, but we did it, and it had results. So I think that the cycle for change has actually shortened. So if something took 4 years, it's going to be 2 years. Mm-hmm. And as a result of that, that's the reason why I keep saying that hiring people with learning agility, hiring people with capability is going to be important, because as we change, if you don't have the people with you who can do that with you, you're going to be stuck. Right. So I do think that that, you know, we're going to position ourselves to do that. Now whether companies that have thrived during the pandemic, is their demand going to go down? I think it does depend. I mean, you've seen that there is some screen fatigue, right? Where people say, oh, I'm on video call all through the day. I'm done with it. I want to actually move to phone calls. So I think there will be some fatigue. Where the equilibrium will happen and where it'll all sort of flat out, I think only time will tell. If I knew that, trust me, I would be investing in stocks all day long and not be doing anything else. So I think that only time will tell. I think what we are viewing at Crawford is that we have to be prepared to change no matter what the change is. Right? And we'll figure out what the change is as we get closer to it. Yeah. Hope that, I think
that's one of the new capabilities for folks. It's that being able to be curious, being able to adapt, to be able to change, and to enjoy that process. So we are out of time, and I apologize to those folks who have posted a question and we didn't get to it. But it's my great pleasure, Rohit, to thank you for coming on and sharing an hour with us this morning. It's been wonderful. I hope you have a wonderful holiday season. I love your video. I saw it on LinkedIn. So if anybody wants to see an imaginative, innovative season greeting video, go and look at Crawford's season greeting video on LinkedIn. So that's it from me, and thank you. I'm going to hand over to Pam.
Thank you, Rohit, and thank you for sharing your experiences and stories and insights. And your authenticity with which you have done so this morning. You can tell by all the questions that came in the Q&A, including those we didn't get to, that there was a lot of enthusiasm around what you were sharing with us. And we also want to thank our attendees who have just had such thought-provoking questions both today and throughout our series. We really appreciate you all taking time out of your busy schedules to spend time with us each and every Thursday morning. As Nicola mentioned, a recording will be available on our Executive Education LinkedIn page if you'd like to share it with your colleagues or go back for a quick review, which I certainly plan to do. And we also have a few things to share with you as we go forward. And for whatever reason, my screen, there we go, my screen was not cooperating. So we are continuing Business Over Breakfast in January. On the 14th, join us with Rebecca Messina, who is the former CMO for Uber, talking with us about building brands in a modern world. And then we will transition into Wes Longhofer, who is also head of our social enterprise at Goizueta, talking about transforming business to build a climate smart world. And then by popular demand, The Economy and Me will return on January the 28th with Professor Tom Smith with a guest, Dr. Bill McKinnon. We do have some exciting programmatic opportunities coming up in the new year. One in particular I want to highlight, which is our extended learning courses that give you an opportunity to join in with our working professionals, our executive MBAs and our evening MBAs with MBA electives that you will be able to participate in, and then several other offerings like how to approach problems like a management consultant, the personal finance workshop, and design thinking for business innovation. You can find more about these programs on our website. And one last thing is you will receive a brief survey. We'd love to have your feedback. Your feedback is always so helpful to us. And if you'll just take just a couple of minutes to fill that out, we would greatly appreciate it. With that, Rohit, do you have any final parting words for our folks before you sign off?
Well, I just want to say have very happy holidays, stay safe, be well, and keep tuning into the Goizueta Business School programs. I think they're wonderful.
Thank you so much, everyone. We do wish you and yours a healthy and happy holiday season, and of course, a very prosperous and healthy new year. Take care, everyone.